The New York City Police Department is facing some backlash online after its dance team performed a cringy number on a local television station. Brace yourself, here it is. Now, some critics were concerned that the boys and girls in blue are focused more on honing their dance moves than combating New York City's crime wave. As one ex-user succinctly put it, fire the NYPD dance team and hire more cops.
Some critics are coming from another angle, pointing out that the cringeworthy performance is probably taking away from needed education funding. Representative AOC Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez quipped on X, how many school music programs got defunded for this? While another critic added, Mayor Eric Adams cut an additional $100 million from education this year, but somehow found the money for the NYPD to promote themselves with a dance team. Yeah, I saw a lot of comments that pointed out specifically the library closures on the weekend in New York, which are really mind-blowing. When do you go to the library? When do most people have time to go to a public library is actually on the weekend. And so the asymmetry in funding, not just these dance teams, but videos of cops milling around at turnstiles on their phones, those enormous R2D2 style robots that are being put in subway stations that have to be accompanied by a cop, like a babysitter for something that's supposed to be automated. All of these funding choices have, I think, brought Eric Adams and the NYPD under a lot of scrutiny. And this dance team that many people pointed out neither protects nor serves.
I get it.
Isn't helping.
Yeah, I do like I like a good tune by Flo Rida. It's a Wild Ones. That's my favorite. Favorite
Robby.
Flo Rida song. Yeah, look, I don't want to make fun of people, but they are public servants, and I think policing services are fairly important in terms of actually policing, actually deterring crime. We don't want to live in a dystopian spying surveillance hellscape with murder bots everywhere surveilling everyone. So the robot you're referring to just moves through the New York transit system, just recording video at all times in case they need it, which seems like a civil liberties problem because I would think police, they should have probable cause before they do that kind of routine surveillance.
And a colossal waste of money. Because again, they champion the idea that it only costs them $9 an hour to rent the machine.
But it can't do anything.
But it has to be accompanied. Like during the nighttime hours, basically, they pay a human being to stand and just babysit the robot. So I guess, kids don't draw a graffiti mustache on it or something. And that cost is not being built in here. Besides which, to your point, what does the machine actually add to public safety? The clearance rate for crimes, for murders, homicides specifically, is at an all-time low. So it doesn't seem like any of these kind of technological interventions are getting to the bottom of actually solving crime, or more importantly, preventing crime from happening in the first instance. And there's ample research that shows investing in community activities for kids, young people to get involved in, instead of getting into trouble
drawing
in the street.
on the robot an activity for kids to do?
Well, there's a cop there preventing them from doing that, and also they closed the library. So it just does seem
They can join the dance squad. They can learn some moves.
Right. I mean, look, there are people who just are going to make fun of the dance squad for reasons that I wouldn't necessarily agree with. And I don't care if cops or anybody in any job in their spare time decide to have a social club of any sort where they get together and do what they want to do. But the idea of having the NYPD dancers come on a local television show and dance seems to be more about promoting likability, promoting goodwill toward a police office that hasn't necessarily earned it, because it has not actually improved public safety, and also because Eric Adams, obviously a former police officer himself, has made the decision to push public funding toward police officers to the detriment of all of these other public services.
Right. I'd like them better if they actually did something about public safety, which is not as out of control in New York as it is here in our lovely city. Crime in D.C., something now I think the national media, everybody's starting to pay some attention to. I've seen a lot of coverage recently, not just locally, a lot of attention being paid to our problems, which are different than New York's, and for a variety of reasons. Some of the problems we have to do with city versus federal authority disputes over, who is literally responsible for what chunks of the city. Our crime lab becoming decertified, so in order to actually, we have a low clearance rate for crimes because they actually have to ship it to a lab outside the city because ours was doing such a bad job. It's not reliable, which you understand. You got to use a reliable crime lab. People have the right to accurate evidence, evidentiary standards, but resulted in a massive backlog for working through crimes. So
yeah, I mean, we're really looking at a homicide clearance rate that used to be about 90% some decades ago,
nationally,
and is now down around 50%.
That's crazy.
And there's a bunch of complex reasons for that, not all of which have to do with, kind of police departments' dedication to solving crimes themselves.
Frankly, you'd think homicide rates clearance rates should be at an all-time high because
forensic evidence.
Because of forensics evidence and because of the level of surveillance that just exists out, not with specific police robots, but just security cameras everywhere. You watch some of those old, some of the documentaries on serial killers from your Bundys, your Dahmers, who just killed an almost incomprehensible number of people by today's standards and got away with killing dozens of people over years. That could never happen. And like Bundy was arrested multiple times and just kind of let go because there wasn't footage of. Now you would be able to so closely track all these people's movements. The second there was any suspicion, I think it would be incomprehensible to get away with that crime, which is good. And yet we have much lower clearance rates.
Yeah, I'm a little skeptical. I do think that, frankly, there have been some contemporary serial killers that have some pretty significant body counts. I feel like I saw a true crime thing recently about one man in particular, but I don't want to misquote on it. But I take your point. I mean, there's a very interesting political moment that we're in right now where it doesn't seem like anyone is really, in any political party, is taking up any of the interest in decarceration, addressing our carceral problems. There used to be a sort of bipartisan interest in it, even under Donald Trump, where you had, who was it, Van Jones and Kim Kardashian and all of these people who were willing to work with Trump to pardon people. There was a kind of libertarian Republican interest in not spending as much on maintaining prison populations, in decriminalizing drugs, and at least getting the nonviolent prison population out from behind bars. And then it does seem in some weird way that the desire to push back against the George Floyd movement, which was related to that, killed any appetite among Republicans for actually doing the thing and saving money on a municipal basis by not keeping so many people in jail for the rest of their lives at a cost that is similar to what it would cost to send them to a four-year university every year.
Well, I wish the conversation about criminal justice reform, in order to get and retain people on the right to support it, was more focused from this isn't a specific call out to anyone, but from an activist standpoint, keeping it about citizens' rights and the cost is a way to broaden support for it rather than it becoming a really kind of identity-based issue. Was not a
Well, it's right there. It is, and that's what Black Lives Matter protesters talked about. They talked about the costs, and they also talked about the disproportionate racial impact. But they also talked about the civil liberties issue. But historically, what has happened, and this works in both directions.
Well, the leaders of the movement took a bunch of money and hired a hype house.
The people that were embraced, especially by the media, as leaders of the movement, but it was always a grassroots movement, and the choice to ignore that was also a choice that the media were complicit in. And those people are still working hard in their communities to try to end mass incarceration and to prevent the massive civil liberties violations that continue in the United States of America. But while they're still working hard at it, we see that both political parties show absolutely no interest in it, even though one political party in particular holds itself out as being interested in those fundamental freedom-style issues.
Maybe we will deter teen crime by forcing them to join the dance league and dance on television. that should take care of it. More Rising right after this.